to Creatively Crafted Life. My name is Melanie, and today is another coffee break with Lela. Hi, Lela.
Hey, how are you? Water break today.
Yeah, I'm starting early on the soda, so.
There you go. There you go.
So you're in a different location today.
I am. I'm actually traveling. I'm in Florida for a few days and then going up the East Coast for work.
It's interesting that you mentioned travel. I think we talked in one of our last coffee breaks about traveling and how you like to travel and how you're going to be scrapbooking your travel adventures and stuff this year. But I was curious because I think you mentioned before that you like to bring crafting supplies with you while you travel. And I'm curious how you make that work, what you take with you, how you limit yourself to supplies, and basically give me all the tips because I'm going to be on a trip here pretty soon and I would like to take some stuff with me, but I don't want to take a ton, right? Because I like to travel light. So what's the scoop?
Right. With my job, Melanie, and being on the road a lot, I had to, a couple years ago, really figure it out because otherwise it left me no time to scrap. And I'm sure you can imagine what happens when you're on the road and you're feeling crafty and you don't have anything. Guess what you do? You go buy stuff.
Right. Of course. But even that's getting harder, right? There's not as many local scrapbook stores, that kind of thing. You may not even be close to like a Michael's or a Joann's. So even that's getting more challenging.
Not only that, but I did kind of find that I loved going to the local stores, but right, then if you were only in an area with the big box stores, one trip there, they all seem to have quite a bit of the same thing. So Mel, for me, I have to have an idea in my head of what I want to do. If there's like a certain page or pages I want to get done, and I try to, and this should fit right in your wheelhouse because I know you're doing kits with your organization, is to keep it limited. I actually bring the kits, like a kit.
Okay.
So I put it in a plastic bag so that it has a little bit of flexibility and can go, in my suitcase, and try to bring everything that kind of matches that kit. Now, that's the other thing. When I say everything, I also don't worry about maybe having a title, if I'm going to go back home and finish the page with a Cricut cut or a die cut or something. But I try to get as much of the page done and on the road. It's kind of fun. The other thing that's funny about that is when I look through my scrapbooks, I can tell you, probably like yourself, where I made that page, right? Like, oh, I was traveling.
So you've got memories built into the page itself.
Yeah, memories built into the page of where I did it, right? So I don't try to get perfection as far as having every little thing. There are some things I might have to finish up about that page, but let me just tell you, having a page, 9/10 done and all it needs is a title is still a win in my book, still getting some things done. And it's not every night that I craft because a lot of times we'll have a meeting, but there are some nights where, especially like tonight, you're stuck in a hotel and I'm not a big TV watcher, and it keeps me out of the, fast food or the junk food, and it feeds my crafty soul.
That's awesome. So I do have a lot of questions though, because you said you're keeping a limited amount of supplies with you. What do you do for things like a paper trimmer? Do you take like any tools with you?
I bought a small paper trimmer, one of those narrow Fiskars, just kind of a cheap one so that I don't get excited if something happens to it. It's easy to grab a replacement blade if I do need one, and it will cut, or trim both photos and paper.
So it's one of those really narrow ones, but still cuts 12 inches.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Try to bring papers that also kind of mix and match so I can do more than one page with that kit. The other trick that I do is I don't get real excited if I I'm a last minute packer, Mel. So I don't get real excited also if I don't have exactly the right photos, because usually there's a print facility kind of close by that I can grab some photos from, a few photos. If the photos that I brought maybe don't go with the paper or don't go with, or I
Right.
change
Or
my
if you're
mind.
on a roll or something and you finish all your photos and stuff. Do you ever take stuff for making cards? Because I know you're also big into stamping, or do you just primarily focus on scrapbooking when you travel?
It's a little harder for me to take cards. I have to do a little bit more planning because of the inks.
Right.
I do have some of the small 2x2 inks,
Yeah.
that several companies make. Those are a little bit more flexible, but I don't have every color. So if I have some colors that will work with that, I love to grab a block, grab some stamps and a few card bases, and maybe a small envelope of scraps, and make some cards. What's fun about making cards on the road is I also grab a pack of stamps and tend to mail them out. I tend to be more, where there are not other things that are taking up my attention. And so when I get the card done, I actually get it mailed.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I was contemplating pre-stamping some images and maybe taking like a limited amount of alcohol markers with me and just do the coloring while I'm traveling, but I'm not sure because alcohol markers are kind of big. So I'm not sure by the time I put them in a case if it's worth taking or not. I could take colored pencils, but I'm a really slow colored pencil color, so I'm not sure about that either. So I don't know. I'm still trying to think what I should take on this trip.
Yeah, I have tried to take some markers. As you know, when I traveled out to see you, I don't know if you remember, a few times ago, I brought a couple of my SCT sampler kits, and that was pretty fun to make some cards and
Right.
throw together some pieces for a couple pages because it kind of came with a little bit of everything. And I know you have those in kits. Perhaps,
And I'm
perhaps
behind on them, so I definitely need to get through them. That's a good option as well.
So for cards, if you remember, I had to be a little creative. I don't think I did any stamping on them. I think I used some die cuts when I was using up those kits to
Right.
to make some cards there with you.
Well, that's a
So
great option.
yeah, I just find for me that trying to travel with ink is a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, that's understandable. Do you ever craft on the plane? Have you tried?
I have not. I am a person who likes space. So, especially lately with the planes being full, there's not a lot of time. And a lot of times I'm taking kind of what I call a hot flight, where I'm hopping to the hub and
Right.
then from the hub flying somewhere else. So, not where I'm going to have 2 or 3 hours. Even when I'm coming out to see you, it seems like there's a stop in between. So by the time you gather all your stuff up, get off, get back on another plane,
Right.
it,
Right.
the space seems limited to me.
And I totally get that because I have tried that, right? Like I've taken stuff with me to color, like colored images or whatever. And I just feel like it's too cramped for that. I have done okay with like doodling or like Zentangling. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's where
Hmm.
you do shapes and you fill them in with line art and stuff. My problem is that I'm going on like I think it's a 10 and a half hour flight.
Right.
So my hope is to sleep through a good chunk of it, but between sitting at the airport, and not sleeping the entire time, it would be nice to have something else to do other than just like try to watch a movie or read a book or something. But I don't know. I'll have to
That's
let you
where
know.
maybe your colored images might come in. I might tend to, on a longer flight, get the pens out and color images.
Yeah, it's just more a matter of the bulk of having them, out, right? So
Yeah.
I'm thinking of getting a case. So here, I'll show you what I have for colored pencils, and I'm thinking of doing this for my alcohol markers.
How to pack it and what to pack it in is key as well.
So I have like these binder cases that I store my pencils in. So they're zipped, and then when you open them up, you've got all your pencils.
Oh, nice.
So you can
Wow.
get something similar to this for markers.
Markers,
but
yeah.
markers are significantly bigger, you know?
Right.
So I don't know. And I don't even know, this just feels like, even if it was this big, it still feels like it's big. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Especially if you're traveling for work. So you're going to have a laptop, maybe some files and some other, cords. I tend to find that I have that kind of stuff in my briefcase. So for me, I don't scrap or do any sort of crafting on the plane other than looking for ideas.
Yeah.
I may scribble some journaling as I look through my pictures and kind of think about what I want to write,
Oh,
on the
that's a good idea.
picture. So
Yeah,
I
that's a
have
good idea.
journaling pre-done. I've done that quite a bit, and it's really kind of that opportunity where you're not bothered and there's not something else to do. You're a captive audience, so the journaling
Right.
becomes a little bit easier.
Well, thanks so much, Lela. I do appreciate you giving me some tips. For those of you that are sharing your coffee break with us, we would like to know if you've taken any crafting supplies with you when you've traveled, whether you fly like Lela and I do for business trips, or perhaps you've gone out to the lake with your family. Do you take supplies with you? How do you determine what it is that you take and what has worked best? Any tips and tricks, I'm all for them.
Absolutely. I'll look forward to seeing the additional ideas.
Well, I think that is about it for today. Thank you so much, Lela, for hanging out with me, and thank everybody else out there for hanging out with us. Make sure you say hi. We want to hear from you.
Thanks. Have a good coffee break.
Yep, you too. And until next time, happy crafting.